Hello, welcome to Home Sweet Gardens. My name is Amy. I'm in growing zone 6A. This is February 5th, 2021. I am getting ready to do my spring planting for my indoor seeds. My dog. I just kind of wanted to share with you what I'm starting. The season is over, obviously, for last year, although I still have kohlrabi growing, and I'm not exactly sure. I didn't think it would grow for that long. It's not doing well, obviously. We've had some 20-degree days, some snow, some ice. It's forecasted we're going to have about 1 to 3 inches this weekend and negative temperatures this next week. So I would imagine that what little is still growing is not going to make it through the rest of the week. I just wanted to, again, share a little bit with what I'm doing. So I'm going to pause here for a second, get set up. I want to show you where I have my seeds starting indoors, what I'm going to be planting, and how I have organized my seeds. Okay, first off, I want to show you the planner that I use online. It's by growveg.com. I absolutely love it. You can use it. There's a free trial, and then there's different things you can use if you don't pay for it. I have purchased the yearly. I did it, I think, for 3 years. It's either $29 or $39.99 a year. For me, it's really worth it. I'll show you a few things that you can do with it. Here's the overview. There's videos that tell you all about it, show you how to use it. He does some videos on YouTube about planting. He's pretty funny and very informative. There's also what's called a garden journal. Okay, and so I put some things in. Up here shows you the different weeks, so you can go back and look and see in different weeks, and I've used it for 2 years now, and it's all still there. So if we go to the 3rd, which was this last Wednesday, when I click on, I click there, you can see I put in there that I planted marjoram 5, sweet marjoram 5, parsley, extra curled dwarf parsley, and 5 Mexican organic tarragon. So I clicked on it, and this shows you exactly what I planted. It, for the most part, has a lot of the varieties. I think the whole time I've been using it, maybe only 1 or 2 weren't in there, and you can create, if you will, the plants. And if you have the packet, you can put all the specifics in it. But it's pretty cool, and it shows you, so here they are, it shows that I planted them. And then if I wanted to water them, if I click this plus button here, watering, tending, harvesting, and then you can put photos in as well. So this is kind of like a regular journal that you might keep on paper or a book or whatnot, but it's just on the computer. The best part for me is the planner. Voila. Now, the one thing that I wish that they had was an app for, I have an Android. I know, I'm sorry, you iPhone users, but I have Android. But I wish that I could have an app where I could pull this up, so when I'm down at my garden, I can get it. I unfortunately do not, but I can go on my Android and get on through the internet to it, but it's not as good. But at least you could see the picture of it. So if I scroll out there, and I know you can't see all the things in there, but this is my whole garden space. And what's really cool about it, I've got, I'll zoom in and see it all the way down there. I've got things that, like planters, like these were planters and whatnot, and then here's the big tree that's out back. You know, so you can put your different, like here's the, we call it the bus barn, because back a long time ago it used to be the barn that they kept the buses in. There's my little shed, and then here is my greenhouse, as well as like my little patio area. Here's my compost bin. And what's really cool about it is that every year you can set it up to where when you go to a new year, all of your structures and your raised beds, like the little wood that I've got around my raised beds here, all that stuff transfers to the next year. You can also set it to where if you have any perennials, like my asparagus, my strawberries, you know, raspberries, grapes, that kind of thing, fruit trees, it transferred them back over as well. So you don't have to go back and put them all back in there. It also helps with crop rotation if that's something that you do. So when you click on something and you go to put it in a space, if it's shaded red, it tells you that you shouldn't plant it there. You should move it because that same family of plant was planted there the year before. So that kind of helps you with that. If you go to the plant button here, you can type in a plant, and like I said, see, there's a ton of them on here. I'm pointing at the camera like you can see me pointing. That's funny. And it will give you lots of different variations. And then if you click on something and then you want to see what companion plants, like say I'll click on my kohlrabi and I want to see what companion plants are there for it, show my companion plants, and see, this will tell me what plants would go well with it if I chose to do some type of companion planting. Now obviously, you know, I don't always go by that. I kind of, seems like I plan this out, and then when I get out there I end up just sticking stuff in different spots. But especially if you're brand new, that really helps. When I first started gardening, it really took a lot of the stress out of it because I was so worried that I was going to do something wrong. And what I've learned in the past 7 years of gardening is no matter what you do, you're going to make mistakes. So try it. If it doesn't work out, then the next year you try something different. So, but it does kind of give you a guide. When you've got it all planned out and how you want it and things that you want, up here is the plant list. That tells you, so for example, if we look at broccoli here, it tells you that I've decided to put 6 plants in according to my plan, which if we look at my plan, right here is my broccoli. And see, it says 2 times 3 plants, total 6 plants in a 4 foot 3 inch by 5 foot 5 inch, because everything's gone by inch. So you can literally map it to your exact garden size. So if I go back to my plant list with my broccoli, it tells me how many I've got. If you do square foot gardening, it'll calculate that as well. And then according to my growing area, which is 6A, my zone, it tells me that in beginning of March, end of February to April, that's when you would plant indoors. Then this gives you the time from April to May, you could plant it outdoors, and then the harvest season from May until October. Again, this is an estimate because it's going by your growing zones. It calculates that for you when you put your zip code in and whatnot. It's not exact science. If you've been gardening for any length of time, then you know that that's not always going to be correct. But it does give you that guide, especially if it's something new that you've not planted before, or you're new to gardening. It'll kind of give you that and tell you, you know, like for example, I'm pull on here, cantaloupe. You can start it indoor, or carrots. You know, I don't know. I think some people may have planted them indoors and then transplanted, but they don't. Root vegetables typically do not like to be transplanted. So I've never started carrots indoors. I've always just started them out in the ground. And of course, that's what this shows too, is that at the end of March, early April is when you would be planting them outdoors, which that would be about the time that the ground would be workable, not the first frost date. I think our first frost date here would be somewhere beginning of May 5th or something like that. I don't know. I haven't looked it up for a while. I've forgotten. But, you know, so that you want to plant them a few weeks prior to the last frost. And then it gives you your harvest time. So this is a really good program. I can't say enough about it. Plant part list, if you're wanting to build raised beds. So like this one I picked up wood. And it says how many. I have 7 of them. Paths, how much I have, if I have containers, what kind I have. Excuse me. Now you pick all of this in their parts list, but it kind of gives you like arbors. I have 1 arbor, 3 containers, you know, so it kind of gives you a parts list as well. If you were, okay, I want to build a bed roughly this feet by this feet, you know, how many would I need? It kind of tells you the size of boards and what you might need for it. Here I've picked plants, but here is garden objects. You can, there's a ton of stuff. Trellises. It even has things for beehives. I don't have bees. Chicken coops. The water's cold frames. compost bins, containers, I mean, you name it. It's got stuff for irrigation, soaker hoses. See, here's a drip line. It's got all kinds of stuff. So if you were to put in drip line, say I wanted to set up a drip line in here, I could plot that out with that, and it would tell me how many feet I need, how many couplers I would need, that kind of thing. So it's really neat to kind of give you that idea. And of course, here's outlines and shapes so you can make it pretty or decorative. And then here's the text so you can click on it and type something if you're wanting to. You can also do my garden I typically just put in for the 1 year season. But if you wanted to, you could set your plants up to where you're going to plant this and this time, this and that time. And then if you clicked on a month, anything that wasn't going to be in there in that month, it would show that the garden was empty. So you would be able to do your succession planting, and it can help you with that. There is a way to print it. I have printed it in years past. I haven't done this for this one yet, but you can if you so choose. So again, this is growveg.com, and I will put the link of it in the video in case you guys are ever interested in looking at it. It's really, really neat. Got lots of good stuff in it. Okay, so there's another item that I've bought. I bought this several years ago. It's called the Garden Journal Planner and Logbook. I got off of Amazon. I used it when I first started before I found the Grow Veg program. But for people that like to write things in and keep track, it's really neat. It has zone maps, supplier lists, purchase records if you wanted to keep track. I honestly I don't think I want to know how much I spend. So I don't keep track of that. But you can put it in there, your contact list. So, okay, where did I get seeds from 3 years ago? You might not remember if you go back and look. Oh, yeah. And then, well, I didn't like this company, or I didn't care for this seed from that company. You know, you could keep record, or I really like this plant selection from this company. So you can remember that, so you can order it again the next time. It breaks up in annual, biannual, perennial. There's flower logs, bulb, rhizome, and tubers, fruit logs, vegetable logs, herb, vine, shrub, tree, hardscaping logs, then wildlife sighting. Then it has 1 year plan, pruning guides, schedules for pruning, trimming, and tidying, plant propagation, cultivation and propagation logs, plant and disease prevention, pest and disease treatment logs, soil testing amendments, formulas and recipes, and conversion charts and tables. It's really cool. So it's got different things. This is a weather log. If I can get it up here to show you. Okay, and if you see, this is where your barometric pressure is. I put sunrise and sunset, so I was wanting to know when the sun rose and when the sun set. And so each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, obviously, I put the temperature. This is what it said it was going to be, and this is what it actually was. So, you know, the weather channel and whatnot is not always accurate. So it said it was supposed to be 36. It was actually 27. Or feels like. So like if you have a wind chill factor, humidity, your dew point, your wind speed, direction of the wind, if there was rainfall, frost, or snow. And then I put in here GHT for my greenhouse temperature. So it said 36, wind chill of 27. The inside of the greenhouse was 32. So that kind of gave me an idea because my greenhouse is not heated. And then over here I put little notes, no snowflakes, but no accumulation. As we go down here, 49 felt like 39. It was 62 on the first day of spring. So I kind of kept track. My intentions, of course, were to do this the whole time. But as you can see, that didn't really happen. I guess best intentions, correct? But there's lots and lots of pages, so you can continue. Or you could make copies of it. Well, never mind, you're not supposed to do that copyright. But anyway, they're there in case you want to do it. Here are harvest and bloom times. And you can see, again, in the beginning, when I first started with it, here's my basil and bay and carrots and grapes, different kinds of plants that I had planted. And I put a P for when I planted them. And like here it says my bay leaves, I planted it in April 10th. They died in May. So they didn't make it. That's funny. here I had printed out my garden. This is what it looked like when I first started using this, and wrote down kind of what I had done. And then this was one of the years as well. And there's lots of different ones. And then you can actually separate it out into certain garden plots. So in the beginning I had done that, and then I wrote what I put in there. I also had put in there when I tested my soil, what kind of soil, what it tested like, what it needed. Like here in this garden plot too at the time, I had sprinkled bone meal into it. And that was back in 2018. Here my garden plot 4, which was a 10x3, the pH, the nitrate, phosphorus, potassium, and then what I added in to amend my soil. These are individual plant info pages for each one. So problem areas are the solanine. It's a nightshade family. This is eggplant. Hardiness zones, companion plants, size at maturity. So you could go through and log all of the stuff for each of your plants that you have if you so chose to do that. So lots of really good stuff. Obviously I had the greatest of intentions of keeping up with it, but I didn't. Here I had started my broccoli on 4/9. I had its first leaves at 4/13, and then I transplanted it on 4/28. And so then like here it would show that my chives, I planted them, and then when they bloomed, so you can kind of keep record. Here was my plant list that I had printed out for 2018. That was what I showed you off of the Grow Veg. I kind of used them both, but then I ended up just using the Grow Veg because it was just easier to sit down at the computer and type it in. And honestly, guys, I just kind of got lazy. But all in all, again, it's a really neat book. If that's something that you are looking for. I know that I spent a lot of time reading and trying to find something, and there's a ton of them out there. And I really like this one. Plant propagation kind of gives you some reading on it. So it has a little bit of everything. Again, it's called the Garden Journal Planner and Logbook by Joy Kiefer. And I'm sure that you could get it off of Amazon or maybe even some other places if you so chose. And here's the back, what it looks like in the back. Okay, so I wanted to show you how I organize my seeds. There's a lot of people that do it according to planting time versus indoors or greenhouse or springtime, summer, late fall. You know, they organize them that way. I have done it alphabetically, so I went to Walmart and got these containers here. And this one is for vegetables. I had just one, and then now I've gotten 2. But this one's for vegetables. This one is flowers and herbs. I just hadn't written that on top of there. And so I just took pieces of cardboard, and I made a template, and I just cut them. And then I wrote what it is on the top. And I staggered them so that, you know, stair step like you would a filing system. So then when I'm going through and I go, okay, I want to plant some cucumbers, I go down and here's my cucumber tab. I go here and I pull them out, and here's all my cucumbers. And I like this, especially when it comes time to ordering seeds. It seems like I'm ordering seeds and I'm like, oh, I already had some of that. I didn't have this one and I didn't get that. This year I wrote down everything I wanted to plant, and then I went through, excuse me, I went through my seed containers and I looked through and I went, oh, look, I want to plant some kale. Let's see what I need to get. Well, I've already got the purple. I didn't need any more of that. I wanted to try some others, so I got the white kohlrabi there. So now if I was to go back and get some more, I could look back and say, well, I've already got those 2. You know, is it empty? Do I need more? You know, and kind of go from there. For example, my carrots, this one, I've got the container, it's empty, but I wrote on it what it was so that I would know that if I want to plant that again, I would need to get more of it. Your beans and peas take up the most space because the packages are always huge. So again, I just got those at Walmart. 7.5 quart gallon latching clear storage by Holmes. And in this one is my flowers and then my herbs. The flowers I just put A, B, C, D, E, F, you know, and did it according to that. So like, for example, my sunflowers are in the S. Some of my sunflowers, I don't have the packages anymore. So I just wrote Ms. Mars sunflowers, and there's the seeds. If I have the packages, I try to keep them. For whatever reason, I don't know what happened to that one. It disappeared. But normally what I would do is I cut the tops off of the package, and then the seeds are in it, and I just stick it, the whole thing, inside the bag, so that way I can go back and I can read it to see what I need. So I don't have to look it on the internet or something like that. The little baggies that I'm using, these are 4" by 6", and this was a package of 100. I got them on Amazon. Can you tell where I shop? And they're just plain Ziploc. These are, does it say 4 mil? And so they work pretty good. And the seed packets, if they're not giant ones, tend to fit in there pretty well. And I just stick them in there and zip them up, and then I don't have to worry about them getting wet, especially if I take them out to the greenhouse, you know, or down to the garden. I want to plant something, I have it in the package. So then if I set it down and some water gets on it, I don't have to worry about it soaking up my package and then getting my seeds wet, because that might keep it from growing. I was going to show you something in here. I think it's in the other one. My long beans, no. Okay, here. So these are my Purple Queen, and the package I had 2 packages, and one of them got wet and the other one I accidentally threw away. Anyway, so I was able to just cut the part of it off that was salvageable, put the year 1119, and I just stuck that piece of paper in with the beans. So then now I know what they are, you know, instead of just writing it on there. So that's a different way you could do it. If you save your own seeds, then you can use the package to do that as well. Works out pretty good. So again, that's just how I do it. I know a lot of people, I am on a couple of different gardening sites, and people ask, how does everybody keep their seeds? What do they do to organize them? And there's some really neat different ways. Everybody obviously has their own, but that's how I do it. I keep these back here in the back room because it is cool. And so I don't have to worry about things getting too hot or freezing. I don't think the freezing will mess with the seeds, but if they get too hot, then there might be condensation, you know, something like that. So I keep them in my back room here. And since they're in these little containers, I can just stack them up and stick them on a shelf, and they don't take up a whole bunch of room. For some of you that have watched my videos from last year, this is my back room, my house, and I have it for making bread, for canning, for gardening. It's just kind of a storage of extra food and stuff that I buy, you know, extra laundry soap, that kind of stuff. It's kind of a catch-all, but I've tried really hard to kind of keep it as organized as possible. As you can see, it gets kind of messy, but there's my canning that I did last year with a bird feeder and some other stuff, because you know how it is, things get piled and stuck. These I actually got, guess where? Amazon. But I love these. I was keeping all of my little fruit and vegetable bags from Walmart so I could put my stuff in them, and I bought these because there's 3 different sizes, and they have the little black things you can tie down and scrunch it and tie it up. They are great because they're mesh, and I've actually just thrown them in the washer when they've gotten dirty. But you can keep all your fruit in them. When I bought some grapes at Walmart, I put them in there after I washed them, threw them in the fridge, And then when I'm all done, I just take that, throw it in the washer, and it cleans them up. So I absolutely love this. So I've got them hanging there. They don't look the prettiest, but it works. And so here's my 2 shelves that I just made up for my getting my seeds done on the inside for indoors. I've got 3 there that I'm started with tarragon, marjoram, and parsley. And then this is catnip that I actually had outside. My cat got to it and I had to rescue it because she was going to maul it to death. But it's actually doing pretty good considering she really tried to kill it. The tall stems on the outside of it, these right here, actually are about twice the size now in about a week than they were before since I've gotten the grow lights. I got these ones here. I don't want to shine the camera right into them, but I got these off of Amazon, and there's 2 of them. They're kind of funny looking the way they are, but they have the red and the blue, and they've got a timer on to set for 8 hours to turn on and off. And they do a pretty good job. I've got everything set up. Obviously, I started these 2 days ago. I come back and check every day, but I saw a little green in there, so I think they're starting. But then these are the ones that I just got today from Walmart, and I know it's probably hard to see with the camera, but they're actually the red and blue as well. They don't have a timer on them, but that's okay. I can turn them on in the morning, turn them off at night. I've got 2 rows. So that's where I'm going to be starting my next set of seeds. I'm going to start some seeds here, and I wanted to share with you what I was starting. Again, it's February 5th. I'm in zone 6A. So it's still a little early to plant too many things, but I do want to get my brassicas in. Last year, I started them with everything else in the greenhouse, and it was too late. By the time I got them out, it got warm and they just didn't do really well. So I thought this year I might try it a little earlier. It may be a little too soon. I'm not sure. We'll see. I've got the gardening itch, as I'm sure many of you do. If you've been gardening from any length of time, then you can hardly stand it and can't hardly wait to get out there. So I thought I'd share with you what I'm going to put in. So I'm going to get in some lettuce, which this is Paris Island Coast. This is Butter Crunch and Little Gem. These are all from Baker Creek Seeds, which would be rareseeds.com. They are in Mansfield, Missouri. I really like them. They do a really good job. They stand by their products, and I've really never had any trouble with the quality of their seeds. And they have a lot of really neat different varieties that you've never seen before. And they have amazing catalogs, so that's kind of cool. I've typically just planted these out in the ground. I've tried to plant lettuce in growing things, and it's not done well because I neglected them and was an abusive gardener to them. But I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try and do 1 or 2 per cell and see if I can't get them to grow, and we'll see. As far as the rest of the vegetables, I've got from Burpee.com is the Octia Hybrid Brussels sprouts. I've planted these for the last 2 years. I really like them. They've done really well for me. The Waltham 29 broccoli from Burpee again. Then Amazing Cauliflower from Baker Creek. Yod Pha Chinese kale. I'm probably butchering the name of that plant. I'm sorry, but that's from Baker Creek as well. And then Portuguese kale from Burpee. I planted some of this last year, but it was way too late and it just didn't do anything. So I'm going to plant some again this year, and hopefully they will do well. Then, so that'll probably take up this tray. Then my other tray that I've got, I'm going to start some flowers, because some flowers you can start a lot earlier. I've got Gomphrena. If you've never seen these, they are the prettiest stinking little flowers, and they last forever. They have flowers on them all the way up. Mine didn't die until probably November, when we started getting some really cold weather. It was crazy how well they lasted. And even after the plant died, the flowers were still there, and they didn't even turn brown for probably another month. So this is the Mandarin Orange and the Globosa Mixed. They look like they might be a little bit soft, but they're not. So they're really, really different, but I got some of those. I'm excited. Some sage. I'm going to get some of that started. And then this is some onions if I have space. I've already got onions in the garden, so I may not, but these are called Flat of Italy, and I might try some of those. I don't know. We'll see. But seeds, if you're doing onions from seed, you need to start them early. So February is definitely when you want to start them. They take forever to grow. I found some petunia seeds, which I've never been able to find before. I've always had to buy them from the nursery or wherever you get flowers. But this mixed colors hybrid, so I'm going to plant some petunias because I absolutely love them. Some marigolds, and plant some of them as well. So what am I using? I got these from Lowe's. They're called the Pro Hex Professional Seed Starting Trays. They have the seed parts here. They have the bottom watering tray. And then it also comes with the lid for your greenhouse effect. I really like these. I especially like the bottom tray because even when you transplant them into something else, you can put them into that bottom tray to help with the bottom watering. I tend to over water, so I like watering from the bottom because I go, oh, it looks like it's dry. Better put some water on it, and I end up drowning them. So I like that because then that can kind of help keep me from doing that. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm pouring some dirt. Of course, since I'm in the house, I'm trying not to make too much of a mess. I'm just going to pour my dirt in there. Try to get all the sticks out. I am using for soil the Miracle Grow potting mix. I also have in the other trays, I use the Expert Gardener potting mix. This tends to have a lot more sticks in it than the Miracle Grow. I really wanted some soil specifically for starting seeds, but I was actually lucky to find this because it's not out yet. Most people aren't starting their seeds yet because it's a little too early still. And I'm just going to fill these on up and then stick my seeds in there. I will do a nice watering of them. I'll probably dampen the top of it. Like once I get them all filled like this, I'll go and get some water and just kind of run some water over the top of it to kind of get it moist. Then I'll probably then it'll sink it down some. I'll put my seeds in, then put a little bit more of the soil on top of it. And then I will put some water in the bottom and stick them under the lights and check on them every day and to see when I've got little plant babies coming up. Every single day. Got to look every day because you never know. Something might show up. And then get excited when they're there. And my husband says, oh, whatever. He thinks I'm crazy because I get all excited. I'm like, oh, look, come look. There's green. He goes, oh, okay, that's great. But if you're not a gardener, you just don't understand. If you garden, then you totally get what I am saying. So I'm going to continue and do this. I think for the most part, most of you have seen a plant seed being put in the ground. The other thing I'm going to do with this is I wrote down how many plants I needed according to my garden space there. Okay, and then what I did as well, because if you're like me, you put all this in and I've even put stuff in there and I mark what it is. And then when I'm moving stuff around, somehow I either get the trays turned around or I get them moved or something, and then I can't remember what this one was, or was it this side, or did I have 3 rows of this, or did I have 2 rows of that? And then you're trying to figure out what's what. And sometimes you know what the plants are, but a lot of times they all look the same when they're little. So I took my gardening planner book that I showed you earlier, and I'm going to draw in my 1 thing, and I'm going to mark on this tray 1, tray 2, you know, and then I got my little boxes that's going to represent each of the holes, and then I'm going to put in there what I'm doing. So if it's broccoli, you know, I'm going to put BR for broccoli. I'll put a code, and I'll write, the important part is to write what the little initials or what your symbols mean, and I'll mark exactly what they are. The nice thing about these trays, and now that I've got dirt all over my, kind of hard to see, there's arrows on them. Right here, there's a little black arrow that points that way. So that's kind of cool. So I'll put my arrows that way, so I know I'm looking at it with the arrows that direction. So I make sure I don't have to turn around, and then I'll be able to remember what I've gotten planted where, so that I don't have that confusion of thinking it's broccoli and it's actually something different. Because again, when they're little like that, they all look the same. What you just saw was me on a time lapse putting the seeds in the seed trays. I think to myself, well, everybody's seen somebody put a seed in a tray, but I forget what it's like when I first started gardening, and I wasn't sure. I mean, I knew how to do it, but I was afraid I was going to do it wrong. So I decided to go ahead and show you, but I did it on a time lapse, because I don't know about you, but sitting there and watching somebody do something like that and you just fall asleep. So I did the time lapse. I put the dirt in first, or the soil. It was the Miracle Grow potting soil. Put that in first, and then I took the water and wetted it down, which kind of sunk the soil down. Then I took the end of my pen, or not the writing end, but the other end, a little point there, and just kind of made sure that there's a little, not really a hole, just so that that's where the seed would fall and not go down to the side of it, because that seems to always happen to me. Got the seeds in there, then I took soil and put it over the top of it to make it flush. For me, that tends to work the best, because that way I don't get it too wet. I don't wash the seed out into the next spot. I don't sink it to the very bottom. All kinds of crazy things can happen. Then all the excess water that's in it's going to go into the tray in the bottom, which will then just soak it up when it needs it. So it's perfect. And I will check these and make sure that they're damp but not wet. Do not want them wet. I said before, I tend to overwater, so I have to be very careful. What looks dry to me actually is not. You don't want the seeds to rot, and that happens to me quite a bit, so I'm really trying to make sure I don't do that this year. And then I showed you the graph of it again. there's arrows on it because those trays on the top of them have arrows, which is nice. So that tells me that this needs to go in the same direction as the arrow on the tray. Each of these little squares represent each hole in the tray. And so then I just wrote in there what each thing is. Tray 1, tray 2, the date that it was planted. And then I just stick this piece of paper underneath that tray. And since it has a bottom where the water won't get wet, that paper shouldn't get wet. And then hopefully, you know, I'll keep them straight. I shouldn't really have to move them until it's time to take them and transplant them. Now, it's going to be way too early in 1 to 2 weeks. A lot of those said 1 to 14 days or, you know, 10 to 14 days for them to sprout and show up. So I've got a good 2 weeks, probably a month before they are to the point where I am going to have to look at possibly transplanting or putting them out. The brassicas, your broccoli, your cabbage, the kale, that kind of stuff, your cold weather crops, in a month will be the end of February, beginning of March, depending on what our weather's like. Some of them may be able to go out, most likely not. Chances are, though, it'll be warm enough for my greenhouse to put them out there, and I won't have to heat it. My greenhouse isn't heated, so I have to put a heater in it, and that's not as cost effective as having the grow lights back here. But hopefully by then it'll be warm enough to where for the most part I can put them out in the greenhouse. I can transplant them into some bigger pots, and I won't have to worry about heating them except for maybe, you know, 1 or 2 nights if we get something crazy. And then in the next few weeks after that, then those brassicas will be able to go out into the soil. As far as the flowers go, they're not going to be able to go out, but I will transplant them into some bigger containers. I don't throw away the containers that when you buy plants from the nursery or from Walmart or Lowe's or wherever you go, and they come in those little plastic, either square or round or, you know, whatever. I don't throw those away. I keep them. And then beginning of the season, I take them out. I always, if they're really nasty, dirty, I will scrub them. But for the most part, I make sure to rinse them with water or something and kind of clean them up. Every spring I go through all my tools and clean them, make sure they're sharp, make sure they're free of dirt, that kind of thing. I should do that at the end of the season. But by the time the end of the season's there, I'm so tired of the garden, I don't want to see another plant or another tool. So I typically do it in the spring. I do at least, you know, put my little garden knickknacks and chairs and stuff up for the winter, but the tools just get stuffed in the shed full of dirt or whatever's been on them, and then I bring them out and clean them in the spring. So, you know, what we should do, then what we do, you know, sometimes aren't the same. But if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, Home Sweet Gardens. My name is Amy. I'm in Zone 6A in the Midwest. Today is February 5th, 2021. Not quite gardening season yet, but we're getting the gardening fever. When I get ready to do my soil testing, I'll do a video with that and show you guys how to do that and talk about how to amend the soil. This is my first year with a compost pile. I'm pretty excited about it, so hopefully that can take up a lot of that I normally would have to do with other things, but I still like to use bone meal and fish meal and, you know, that kind of stuff in the garden. I bought some soil replenisher this year that I'm going to try out, so I'll get with you guys and put a video of that on when it's time to do that. Thumbs up, subscribe button, please, 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 and I will see you again and closer to gardening. Happy gardening.